Hi Starseeds, it's Opheana and Sikaal, and today we want to talk to you about your spiritual path and the chemicals in your body. Say what?
What?
We're cosmic shamans, teachers of universal consciousness, and spiritual life coaches.
So, the chemicals in the body, what do we mean?
Yes.
We're excited to share this one because we see it so much.
A lot.
Sorry, we see it constantly.
All the time. Did we say all the time?
All the time.
Constantly.
So, chemicals in the body which are triggered, created when you see something, you think something, you feel something, you remember something. Sex, money, babies, food, something that
drugs,
any of those things where all of a sudden the chemicals in the body, in the brain just flick, and it starts to control your choices, it starts to control how you're thinking, it starts to control how you're feeling. And it's not real. It's not real, is it? It's an illusion. It's just a chemical in the body. And so the reason why we want to talk about this is just to really bring a laser-like focus so that you can actually make a choice and take back the control.
Yes.
From it controlling you. You know, all over the internet, all over TV. I mean, we haven't seen TV in a long time. We just, watch what we choose to watch. But there's just ads everywhere, right? And a lot of it's based on sex.
Yeah.
A lot of it's based on food. A lot of it's based on how to be in a relationship in a 3D sense, having the perfect children, etc., etc. It triggers things in the brain. Now let's start with sex.
Yep.
So for men, the boobs on the screen, also same sex, it's just like boobs, right? Butts.
Boobs, butts, bodies.
They activate chemicals in the brain.
Yep.
Must mate with this type of person, make babies, or practice too. And so, and then, the women attracted to men, is this going to be a nice strong man for me to make babies with? They're the chemicals that have been programmed in there to keep us reproducing. However, it's still controlling people, even once you've had the babies, even once everything's all, And so we really want to highlight this area so that you can really take back the control and rather than having things in front of you that trigger that, because if you're sitting there watching something that's unhealthy for you, pornography, whatever it is that's activating this, it's a chemical. You can get addicted to this chemical in your brain. And so to be aware of, is it controlling you or are you fully empowered in the situation? If you walk past someone in the street and it just triggers the chemical reaction, the sexual chemical reaction, but you don't want it to, you can be aware of it and say, okay, this is literally just a chemical reaction. I mean, you don't want to take away the appreciation of, bodies are beautiful, that's all fine and good. It's not about that. It's about not being controlled by it. Let's move to food, for instance. You see food, you have a certain type of food, it reacts in the mind, it reacts in the brain, and then you get all the endorphins of, it makes me so happy to eat. But it's actually literally programmed into certain types of food so that you feel a certain way. Like cheese has a type of heroin in it, so that you want to keep going back.
Actually, it's like an opium. An opiate, yeah.
Which is same. And so it's really about taking back your control. We've noticed, for instance, really cheap, big production potatoes, they can react with people that to a certain extent that it activates hormones in the body. It changes the hormones so that periods can shift, sexual energy can change, levels of
and become more activated.
Yes, and mind control type things. So whether they've been grown with a type of hormone or pesticides or preservative, whatever it is, there's in some of the big production, cheaper food, it can really react with your body. So be aware of that. You know, if you can go directly to areas where the food has, you know, been grown without pesticides, been grown without a huge company trying to control something. Apart from that, you know, just really looking at what does food mean to you? How does it, you know, bring down your emotional energy? Do you use it to control emotions within yourself? So it gives you that good feeling, so you kind of just sit back and you don't deal with the emotions, and therefore that's controlling you as well. So you just want to keep getting to the next food, the next carb, the next whatever, and that activates endorphins in your brain as well.
It's interesting because with all of these types of chemicals that run straight to your brains, like, you know, your dopamines, and you've got your endorphins and your serotonins, whatever you watch, whether it's movies, TV show, whether you're on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, everywhere, you know, you see sex and you see money and you see drugs and food, and it's a very normal part of 3D society, and to a degree that's fine because that's how it's evolved. But what we're really wanting to get across is that you have a choice as a starseed, as a light worker, as a high spiritual initiate, to really start distinguishing the finite details there, because part of what's programmed into your body, no matter what age you are, there is a reproductive drive that is so strong. It is one of the strongest drives that you will have. Males and females experience it differently. From a male perspective, I can state it's a very strong driver, not only to find a mate, but also simply to engage with it. So when that floods and when those hormones flood the brain, it's almost like it clouds over. And so when you're mastering your energy bodies, you need to understand that that is programmed into this body. And the same goes for certain types of foods, you know, like your salty or your sweet or your fatty type foods. They do the same. Cooked foods, they activate these endorphins and serotonins and dopamines in the brain. So do different drugs in different ways. And so all of it is okay, and you can choose to have whatever you want as part of your experience, but it's about rising above and understanding that it can take you over if you're not aware of it. For instance, when we eat very clean, we've had a lot of phases. When we reintroduce certain foods, like you could almost see your eyes glaze over as you felt the chemical rush in your brain. It's like a sugar rush, but then different. And so when you're aware of that, you can monitor that a lot more, and you know, this is all part of my experience on Earth, you know, and whether you choose to be sexually active or celibate or whatever your choices are within that wide spectrum, same-sex relationships, partnered relationships, marriages, whatever your choice is, or you want to live in a cave alone, whatever, it doesn't really matter, because it's all built into your physical body. And so you can't escape this. And obviously you can limit how much input you get, which drives this, by what foods you intake, what you watch, etc., and what triggers you have. But know that when you engage in these triggers, your body's going to respond. And it doesn't have anything to do with how high your ascension consciousness or your frequency is. That's just how the body is. And you can rise above it to a certain degree and master it, but it is a trigger that is heavily built in, which means the species goes on. I mean, look at the animal kingdom, it's the same there. You know, it's about shelter, food, and, you know, mating and reproduction. And so, of course, that's all built into this physical vessel. And as a spirit, you came into this vessel, and one of them is, you know, this body that does amazing things with, I believe, 7 trillion cells, but it also has all these chemicals running through it. So when you understand this to the next level, because you were probably already very aware of it, but you can start monitoring it more now, and you can start to master how much control it has over you in your life. And this is when spirit can talk more through you, and you can become masterful over the personality and with the personality, rather than having it control you through its urges and through the, you know, the chemicals that just take over your brain, basically.
Yeah, beautiful. So to, again, look at all your choices and decisions on what sort of foods, really look at labels, really look at